Yes. All the people who are watching. I just look for nobody. Just make sure four numbers. But no, I've not done mine. I had a sick kid home the last 2 days. So.
Oh.
Parker, fever.
And the sun
And
is
it's
back.
back today. No, just 103 fever. That's my kid that when he gets sick, he goes high fever, like to the point of hallucination. It's slightly terrifying,
Yeah.
but that's like his instant, like just get a high fever. What happened? Like 100, 101? No, 103, 104. He's back to school today.
At least you know that's his.
Yes, the first time it was a lot more scary when he came up and woke me up in the middle of the night hallucinating, and I was on the phone right away. Like, what do I need to do right now? Do I need to call an ambulance? Do I need to? I don't. So now at least I know, and I give him that hope before he gets the hallucination because I enjoy that. And I've seen enough seizures to know that I don't want to experience that with my son. So absolutely, that is more terrifying. This is just what's getting others.
Started to. I was in the board agenda thing.
Was in August, that's a long time
Yeah,
ago
I know.
already.
Time flies.
The board's been a little busy with superintendents or.
All the things.
So we're on, right? And I don't know how it
Yes,
looks.
we're gonna convene the board goals committee meeting. The purpose of our meeting, I think, is to orient the agenda for the strategic planning retreat. It's coming up. And how long of an agenda item is that? As well,
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Okay, the background of like what we want to accomplish there, or why it's coming forward.
I think it was just an update to the board. Personally, I think that we should maybe go over the year 0 and see like, where are we at with those? Are we actually accomplishing these things? And then give an update maybe on that. But then I think kind of just to check in with the board, how is it going to see the conditions on agenda items in our board meetings?
Well, we made a list of questions. Like this, we need to continue to kind of work on this and clean this up as as I scribble all over mine, but, are there, let's see. Board goals, are there separate ones specific to what the board needs to be doing? These are the board commitments as board members. What are we doing collectively as a board was a question that came up in the,
Leadership meeting.
planning meeting. And then if this is an agenda item, who is leading this? Is this chair and vice chair? Is it the board goals committee? Is it something that you need my help with or somebody else?
Specifically for the strategic planning meeting.
Yeah, just whatever that agenda item looks like. So questions like the slide we're using, is that seem to be working? We did put this agenda item last so that we could kind of have a conversation around, is this the type of fall and mid-year academic data that the board feels like they need, or is there something else? Has there been something else that's been missing as we kind of reflect on what the year of kind of presentations and things have been so far this year? Reflect on a list of what the board has seen to date to have that history, so we could try to pull that together. So looking at year 0 is probably a good start. We haven't talked about the seed survey yet. And that's something we should talk about because it's a bit of a mess, honestly.
Okay.
The way And it's improving. So the way the data came to us was just this big file of stuff that was unusable. And that's what we got like in August. And so since that time, MESD has offered to help try to build a dashboard for MESD schools. And so they've used our data to try to mock up what that would look like. And we gave them
Okay.
feedback on that this week, but it's not in a place where it's usable
Yeah.
yet. And some of the data that we wanted for this in terms of, I don't even think it has participation rates on it. So participation rates or demographics related to those participation
just-
rates aren't a part of what they're sharing with us at this point. So that's part of the feedback that's gone back to the state in terms of like,
Yeah, can we add
that's
this
part
in?
of what we
Right.
need. So some of the things that we've drafted specific to that may work a year from now, but
Yeah,
won't work right now.
And it might be the year 0 becomes year 1. so,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Or that we have to modify it again based on what we think we're gonna start to get from the state. The attendance stuff, we haven't really built in as an agenda item up to this point. John, I think, has put it in your newsletter updates.
Mhm.
So is that sort of information meeting that need, or does it need to be a presentation? I think those are the kinds of questions
I
that,
think for me, I like it in the newsletter, but I think I like having one landing spot where if I'm getting a question about it, or I know I can go and not, John's are great, but if I delete those after I read them, or, I don't always have access, or I can't always scroll over my email. So to me, I would like there to be one landing place, which I think we kind of talked about with links and doing other, with our, other spreadsheet that we have.
the board planning.
Yeah.
session.
So to me, that would be nice, with as much as we can, just
Mhm.
because it gives us a place where we can go if a question comes up. Without texting John or waiting until the next one-on-one or,
Right. It almost makes me think of, so we started a director newsletter that's for district staff, but it just is a place where we have links that go to different people's like updates. So
Yeah.
even just something like that, that
still landing.
like, here are John's newsletters, because I think he's just using the same link over and over, but you'd have that link. Or
Yeah.
you'd have.
Yeah.
The board planner, you might have
Yeah.
attendance update.
Yeah.
Kind of all in one.
Yeah, just one landing spot.
The other thing that's not on this list that I'm gonna add is none of this has been updated on the website. The website still has the goals of,
Yeah.
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 the
Neither-
3 work,
neither
the
do
3,
Yeah.
Well,
the,
not the mission, vision, values. I mean,
No.
that's, yeah.
No,
the
3, like, be present in the, what is it, in the community.
Oh,
The
yeah.
board,
Yeah.
yeah, when we were interpreting our board goals to mean more what we need to do, not
Yeah.
goals
with-
that are set
so-
for the district.
And I do
Strategic
think there's
planning
still a
district.
divide there, and I gotta think through how we convey, because I think there's 2 very distinct things. And
Yeah,
meshing them together.
We talked about that a little bit in the leadership meeting, because Chris was talking about doing some training and some PD for the board as being part of our goals, and so we kind of had that conversation that those are 2 distinct things, and maybe we have that in like the board conditions or not these board, our operating agreements, is what I meant
Yeah.
to say. Something like that, where we work on that for us as board members to do ourselves. As opposed to where this is more board directing district. And not mixing them up and making it messy.
Yeah, I wouldn't mix them up. I think there's a lot of value in doing that work. I think there's tons of research about why you should do that. Board development and board self-evaluation. That stuff that we have
Yeah,
ever done with Fidelity. Um. So I think what I propose is like, as it relates to that, if that comes up. I think the board goals committee can handle both sides, we don't have a charter. We should have a charter that. Kind of both sides, right? We are maintainers of the board goal statements and proposing it. We'll need to find a third one, because I think that was
Yeah.
critical to have.
Yeah.
A well-rounded. And then, maybe that's something we add to our plate. Over
To do
the
our own,
spring, to
yeah.
start doing the internal oriented stuff, how do we, and hopefully align in some meaningful way.
yeah, we can make it similar to this format, just in a different,
If we dive in too deep on that, I think we're gonna use all of the 45 minutes talking about that.
yeah. And it really isn't applicable to this.
No, I think there's a lot that we still need to.
Yeah.
Tighten down. I really like this, and I think. Yeah,
And how much of what you just described needs to happen in July? Right, July, August, like
Yeah.
as a part of
Well,
that
especially with
retreat,
Potential,
we will have some new
a new
board
election,
members
board members.
regardless, right?
Yeah, if we do it now, we're gonna do it again.
Mhm. And so what are the things, and that might help with the conversation next week too, right? Let's stay focused on here and now and what we're doing. Is this meeting our need, knowing that there are these other things that we want to start to work through?
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah, it's not that we're disregarding those things, it's just
Mhm.
Well-
better time and separate from this.
I like that. Does OSBA still do their. Board evaluation, self-evaluation, they have.
Yeah, like they just updated,
Okay,
I haven't seen the finalized, but they had updated it last year, maybe the year before, it's maybe been couple years now. But it seems to, from what I've heard from people, board secretaries that have used it around the state, it's much more robust than it used to be,
all right,
so.
robust is always a great word.
I know, for better. or
Uh,
worse.
Is that easy to access, Or would
I
you
don't,
have
I
access
think
to it?
it's one of the like paid wall, like they don't have it out there just for anybody to look at for the board's self-evaluation. I think you have to look through OSBA to get access to it. And I would guess there's a cost associated with their. helping with
Is it a
this.
service that they require ushering the board through?
That I don't know, like I would have to check with them, like
So
what other trainers. would
All of that
come
will
out to-
define with the whole board on
Yeah,
next Friday.
there,
yeah, next Friday.
Week from today.
Portland Public has used OSBA's. I just searched Oregon School Board Association Board of Self-Evaluation, and so they have theirs, at least, it's from years ago, but it's at least a reference point. For that conversation. Board of BSAS, Board Self-Assessment System.
Um,
Standards. So I think. Most of next week is. How are we doing? What's
Yeah.
working, what's not? What's missing, even looking at that sheet and updating everybody on where we're at, the seed survey feels like an important part.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
yeah, I think kind of an update, if we here, go through these real quick for year 0 and just make notes about where we're at. I think the update on where we're at for those things would be good. And then maybe questions about how we're seeing those things. I mean, we could even go through the timeline and adjust, like, okay, we're in February. Have these things, I mean, it's like the seed survey report is on here. Obviously, we cannot do that in October.
right,
It wasn't ready by then, so where can we adjust dates? And this is not, I mean, it wasn't a strict
Yeah.
timeline, obviously, just months, but. But just so that we have a better idea, if that's gonna be. When we're normally getting that. Then it's not realistic for us to talk about it in October.
because we just got graduation data, we're actually on time with most students.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mhm.
um.
Yeah,
But
we just
some
got
of-
out of state travel. We just
Mhm.
got graduation data. We did recognitions for holiday donations.
Yeah,
we have really used this schedule, I mean, the timeline,
Okay.
when we've been doing our planning, but like, when I look at that with the first table, that year 0, like, when we talk about the disciplinary incidents, so that is being implemented, what is the close the loop for the board on that?
well, and I think when you talked, when we met about that, I feel like the board kind of had a chance to ask questions about the fidelity of, I don't know that it came with a number, but
So that was part of the MTSS
Maybe to your point
conversation.
about that, closing the loop, it might be beneficial for us to tie these goals to
Mhm.
one of these things. And that could just be us numbering these and then numbering them the same here. This is gonna be, number 1 seed survey, this is, or whatever, so that people know, oh, attendance rate, I'm gonna get that in whatever this is, because it's not necessarily attendance data is gonna say that, but not all of them are gonna say exactly what that is.
Yeah,
what, yeah, what if we, I like that, like, what if we presented it in, I like the whole what's working from a staff to board standpoint. What does the board want to see? And then from a board to committee standpoint, what do we want to see? At that point, that's, I imagine Chris will want to bring out board internal evaluations, and I would propose we just kind of add that to our charter and quotes, that we start tackling that for the
Yeah.
summer retreat. And then, but then we're looking at the document, what do we want to start looking at changing by the summer? So that kind of the
Yeah, so
outcome,
going into year 1, are we
Yeah.
really at year 1? Do we need to push from year 0 to year
Yeah.
1?
yep, and how
Tighten it down
do
a
we
little
want to
bit.
organize and present information? Hopefully not looking at seismic changes, that
Mhm.
would be
Right.
disappointing. But,
And
Yeah.
hard to
In-
track for the long.
oh my gosh,
Things like if you change the
Right.
metrics, then
Right,
nothing's comparable year over year.
yeah, I think after year 1, we really shouldn't, but with year 0, if that's something that we didn't have, like the seed survey, if we didn't have access to it, we weren't monitoring it, we just basically crossed it off for year 0.
We didn't have some of those
became-
important data points, like
Yeah.
how many people took it. and Yeah, participation rates. So you're going,
Why are
why
they
they
not?
were- Yeah. So if only 10% are taking it, like,
do they know
Right.
how much we
use the data.
banked on that?
I know,
Right.
Clearly not.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking is the
hopeful, though,
outcome of
with
that.
the dashboard, like,
Yeah.
it
That
will
it'll
help
Give more info.
for sure.
So MESD is kind of getting more of the raw data.
Mhm. They're
Okay.
taking that pile of data and making it in some.
Readable and
so we
usable.
can, Yeah,
Yeah.
actually make some sense out of it.
Yeah, so then the whole agenda item, then the outcome is to the committee. A chance for,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have to give an update and then the board to say this is.
Yep.
Working, not working, what we want to see changed or added or whatever.
and with us giving the update, I think some of that is probably in your update. I don't know, or are you updating? Are you part of that agenda?
I am,
That's
I
one
mean,
of the
that's
questions.
what
Yeah.
we're here to.
Do we
to
want
figure
her
out
to be
what
like-
makes.
Currently, I
what-
have board, I mean, I think currently I have presenter as the board goals committee with you guys in parentheses, so they know what board members are, but I mean, technically Tracy, I guess, could be included on the.
Yeah.
Board goals committee, but
No, I'm fine kind of rehashing, remember, this is what we did.
Yeah.
This is why we did it. This is what we have and this is what's guiding our work. The goal of today is to get feedback from the board to the committee and from, and for the district staff to be able to get feedback from the board about what's working, and what's not. The committee will take all that back.
Yeah.
And we're now setting our targets for the summer.
Mhm.
And then we'll need to start adding agendas, and we don't have Kathy to
keep it on track.
keep it on track, so.
That was one of the like, remember to put your request into the spreadsheet, remember, right? She was very good at like.
Yeah.
So if I plan on like a 5-minute.
Yeah.
overview of
Overview.
where we've been.
I think copies of this would be helpful
Yeah.
to have.
Honestly, maybe even ahead of time, because if they're gonna.
Well, I was
tell
planning,
us
I
how
was
it's
like, I'm planning
working.
on attaching it when I post it today. So
Perfect,
I don't know if that's ahead of time. or
because
not.
they
Yeah.
then. Can look at it and have questions ready.
And I think, Tracy, if you have ideas for how to. What would be nice is if kind of the way we present this gets more and more entrenched.
Mhm.
I think if you put thought into how we should. Present it, I'm happy to do the work to kind of reorganize,
Mhm.
but. This was a proposal document.
Right,
It's kind of just sitting there, but there's probably an easier way to present and maintain. And so if you have thoughts about how to do that, or
I think those are two different things in my mind.
maintaining.
Uh-huh. Maintaining is a spreadsheet to me.
A
Presenting.
usable, workable, changeable,
Yeah.
updatable document.
And I do think I think Sarah and I will have some work to do on the board meeting planner that we've used, because I've also thought, how do we show year after year on it, and how does it, start to align with some of this, as we adjust, and it's definitely something that's fluid and changes as we have our meetings, and the timing of different things, adjusts a little bit. In terms of presenting this, I think some of it. The crosswalk of the goal statements with the timeline. I don't know if most people need both.
Mhm. Yeah, if I remember right, we were trying to satisfy. Two different ways that people were thinking about them.
Mhm.
Yeah, meaning
Which
this,
And
That's for
I
sure.
think also trying to make sure that we. With our conditions, had a way for the board to hear about them.
mm,
So we are trying to put that on a,
to emphasize.
Yeah.
like, we
Well,
do,
It's kind of trying
we
to
did
emphasize
just say
the
this,
actual
we actually
tracking of the
did have
data.
a,
'Cause
yeah.
And then back to a spreadsheet, right? Because then you can sort
Yeah.
it for different
It would be
purposes. You
accountability
can sort
for-
it
yeah,
by
the
month
goals.
if you need to, or you can sort it by condition if you need
Right.
to, and look
Yeah.
at it in those different ways.
Yeah, so like I want to maintain the definitions that we've got
Yeah,
and have that stored somewhere,
Mhm.
but probably not present it to the board every single time.
Mhm.
Kind of stuff and trying to.
I think the other, there's some very specific things I wonder about, because. And this is more of the feedback for me and coaching folks that are presenting to you. I've tried to be like, what is the one, maybe two conditions that most aligns with whatever we're talking about? Most of them you could align in some way
Yeah.
to all four of them,
Yeah.
and that's not helpful from my perspective.
Right.
So how do we keep things as,
Yeah, a little bit more focused.
yes, of course, there's overlap, but what is the primary one?
Right.
Yeah, and I think that,
Sometimes you can, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think that just helps. Focus the board's reception of it.
Mhm.
I think we would see the passion.
Mhm.
Anybody who's bringing a project they're passionate about is gonna say a lot to follow them. And I'd agree with them, but then it dilutes the significance to the point.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, I think. The same presentation can be emphasized in different ways at different times. And so maybe one time when it comes to the board, the emphasis is safety, and the other time it comes to the board, the emphasis is. I mean, I think about like the student handbook could be something like that. We could be emphasizing it for safety, or we could be emphasizing it for inclusion. Depending on what the reason for the presentation is, so,
Belonging.
or belonging, whatever.
Trying to invent another word.
Oh,
He flagged
you
it right
crazy?
away, Holly. I just want you to know, his hand went up,
so I need to have the conditions in front of me.
I've got them tattooed. on my-
Perfect, yeah, that's.
But I also think the background and the conditions, this chunk should be on the website, shouldn't it?
Well, and maybe out there on our
yeah,
desk,
I would think, yeah.
like
this is
laminated
what
out
should-
there.
Yeah, this should replace whatever's current.
So that I don't say.
Website.
Inclusive instead of.
Instead of bullying.
Yeah.
So you don't say the wrong condition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the first paragraph, I think this was. To propose to the board, so those will really just get wiped away. Yeah, I think all that stuff is stuff we can work to clean up. How do you feel? Do you think we need a third member to get to the summer?
I think after that we do. I don't think to get to the summer.
Okay,
I don't think there's a lot to, I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's. some
I mean, I
cleanup,
guess,
it's some-
except if we want an extra person to do the other piece. Of more our internal,
yeah, but I feel like we can work with Sarah to get access to OSBA,
yeah,
make sure the board knows costs and stuff like that.
Yeah, to do a board
Just
evaluation.
Periodic,
Yeah.
because we're not gonna invent a wheel. I
right.
mean, we haven't proven.
It won't
that
take as
we're
long
doing
as this
something
one.
with fidelity enough to.
You're right, I was like, if you're going into this and getting something that intensive for the August
Yeah.
retreat, you'd probably want 3 people on
Yeah.
board, but. I think you could probably at least wait till after the elections to
Yeah,
get that 7th person back on the board.
I agree.
Yeah, more people to choose from.
Well,
Like
and
schedules
yeah,
and availability and everything.
we could choose somebody now that then would change, so
Mm-hmm.
that's not necessarily helpful. Yes, that's what I think we can get to the summer.
Okay, it's 5 minutes. Can do an overview. Remind them of conditions. Kind of where we are. And then if I were to try to orient them to and I'm happy if you do that part, but I don't think you want to.
I love public speaking.
It's not public, just.
Yes, it is.
Well, so you can do it as a
Just your
full group,
close
or
board
you
member
could,
friends,
you
and
could.
anyone
do
else who's
groups.
watching.
You could each be in a group with a couple of board members.
I like the whole, just because then everybody gets to hear, there's not enough of us that I don't think we need to. split
everybody
into
there on
groups,
Friday?
but
No one has notified me that they
Okay.
won't be.
I think
That's
everybody,
the-
I don't remember anybody saying they could be.
Well, and I know we moved it because both Chris and Myra, I think, are out of town this week, so
Yeah,
just 2 of our 6. We don't
Yeah,
have 6
we
at this
need-
point, but.
okay, so what are you trying to propose that I do?
No, I was just.
Everything.
You're gonna do the.
He's gonna do the 5-minute
No, I
overview.
just think-
Right up.
And I think that might turn to like, I don't know, 7 minutes, because overview. This is how we were organizing it.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there's a handoff, I think, where you would talk about. How has this been going?
Yeah, as
Here's the
district,
slide that we've been providing. Here's how we're coaching our staff.
Mhm,
Do you have anything
mhm.
that you see needs to change from a presentation standpoint or would like to see change?
And I think the other layer of that is. What things make sense back to your point of like, where can I go find that information? What things make sense as a presentation? And what things make sense as an update that's in
A newsletter.
a newsletter from your superintendent? That then you have a place to access
Yeah.
it, like not everything is a presentation,
Right.
and we might have to figure out as we go. But that kind of layer of things,
yeah, honestly, I prefer less as a presentation
that's.
and more as a
Mm-hmm.
access.
Yeah.
When needed.
From that way too, because I'm like, I don't
Or,
always
or updates,
get it all
you
when
know,
it's talking
from
to
John
me, but
in the highlights or
when you go back and
whatever.
read something, then.
But- I think the presentations need to focus more on what needs to be public. Um. Because definitely attendance, graduation, some of those things need to be public, more public. Or if we have another reason to make something public for whatever need.
It's also, if you have the data and you know where you have it, you also can then reference it in
Right.
comments or questions
Right.
so I think just kind of navigating some of that in terms of.
Yeah, and one possibility would be if we made board goals committee a recurring meeting. Is it could be then things that maybe don't rise to the level of presentation, but like co-curricular CT participation. It could come out of a goals committee. It's included in minutes within the board agenda and it's not talked about. Not to mask anything, but that way it's available for public consumption. It would be changing how we do the board goals committee.
And I would still like it to see it on whatever.
Yeah.
Landing place, because
Yeah.
going back to search through meeting minutes is.
Well, that was gonna be a
possible, but
question.
not Simple.
Yeah, with board docs, is there an organization, like, is there something within the library? Where different reports could be categorized according to board goals?
So there is, we would just have to set it up how we want to. I will say with that said, we are researching a little. On our meeting management systems. Board Docs is going to have us migrate to Diligent, because that was the company that bought them 7 or 8 years ago. And with that comes a bit of a cost increase. So we are looking at possible other options too, where we could save some funding.
The city just went to Granicus or something? I don't know.
And I don't know if Granicus is a school board, I know they're a big, cause I talked to Susan Joy about it one time, they're a big city recorder, one that's used. We're looking possibly at board book, because we get a discount through like a state consortium for using that. And there was 2 others that we had looked at back in 2018 when we first went online with it. That could be possibilities. What their pricing is though, so. But from
Well,
what I've learned so
whatever-
far, board book is
Whatever would be
substantially cheaper.
easy for. District staff, in my opinion, to
Mhm.
add to.
Yeah.
Because the hope would be that as things come in, that gets updated often, even if there's not notification sent out. As the landing place, when things come in, it just gets put there, and then that could be like you're saying, part of. Board goals is that we look at, okay, this is now what's currently on that landing place. Have we either had presentations for those? Do we need them? Do they need to be in an update? Or do we just need to send out an email that says, hey, these things have been updated? On your time, go look at those things. Yeah. Just to
And we
make
can
people
talk through
aware.
how you would want it categorized. I mean, like, we can do that. It's just a, how do you want it organized for
Yeah.
easiest use?
Right.
And I think there will be a question back to district staff, I would say at least as a wrap up of how is this working for district staff? Where can we better align or also that's 45 minutes and really the takeaway is. Little tidbits for us to take
Yeah.
in with some of them.
Board goals should probably be an agenda item at every retreat, right?
Mhm.
It
Right.
should be,
Yes.
Well, I mean, I want to see it over time more tightly coordinate with budget and the way that we understand our budget, which would really be this time of year and then summer, how our calendar is set. I still believe in that budget calendar process.
Well, I think this is the closest we've come to actually, at least in my 8 years, like. Having a really good goals process and following through with it and. Having that accountability, okay, where are we at? What do we need to?
Yeah.
To keep doing.
Where are we at? Where are we going?
Yeah.
How are we getting there?
We've also had more stability on the board. In the last 3 years, 4 years than we've historically had, so that does help.
and with district staff, like,
Yeah,
it's both
yeah.
of those
Yeah.
things, right? We haven't had the,
That's a very good point, yeah.
So, when I was looking through who filed, there was, I don't even remember which school district it was, so I won't say, but 7 positions. I was like,
oh no.
I don't remember. I'll have to go. look
It's like they
again.
have
It
like
was
2 or 3 2-year
Yeah.
terms that are
In
getting
Multnomah
filled
County.
and then.
Yeah.
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 It was like, ooh,
That's a lot. I mean, I don't know if they're a 7-member board or if they're.
there are a
boards
few that are
bigger
9,
than
there's
that.
a couple I think that are 9.
So I don't know if it was one of
But
those.
still, I
but
was like, that's a lot of new people.
wow,
that-
That's rough. I mean, 4 is a lot.
I was
Seven,
looked at it and went, I'm glad I'm not that board
I know.
secretary.
So-
Where's NSBA next year gonna be?
Well, I don't know.
That's the
I
one.
feel like it should be back
Is
towards
this
one's in
West Coast.
Atlanta.
They usually try and alternate. More east, more west.
And
Although
is that the one in
sometimes
April
west is like central.
or
IE.
spring-ish?
It's April, yeah, this one's in Atlanta.
2026.
That was the one, was it last year in New Orleans or something?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So I'm like,
Nebraska,
Almost. Oh.
What?
Nebraska, really?
right? La Vista, Nebraska. Oh, no, that says October. It must be a different NSBA.
Oh, that's the Nebraska State.
Oh, I was gonna say,
Association.
Which, this is the problem with
Okay, yeah,
acronyms, people.
we'll- National School Boards.
It's just hard to find it until after the current.
Makes sense, right? The Nebraska is in Nebraska.
Oh, it's 2026 is
David
in
Evans.
Atlanta.
Not what it was.
2025.
The current ones are.
It's confusing.
You have this linked on your thing because find this on that website. I emailed it to myself because I was like, I'm not looking for this ever again.
After two
So
times,
hard.
after two times.
Well, I did
running.
3 times and that's not good.
That's true. You're on the 2-year plan.
I still,
Oh, it
Where
hasn't
is
been
that?
announced.
I don't know yet.
It'll probably, they used to have like the next like 2 or 3 years. It'll probably be announced after the April one.
Yeah.
So, after April.
Yeah, she made me ask for it.
Well, is there anything else to cover?
I don't think so. I don't think it was just like, we need a game plan for
Yep.
how the conversation
Next week,
goes and.
I think we can
Like we'll make it short and sweet and Holly do everything else.
close down this meeting.
I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know. All I've got is about 10 minutes of total talking.
I think a lot of it will just be the conversation. So
discussion,
we
yeah.
can take back, and that's the point, is we need an update about how it's going, so that's, we want the
There's
discussion.
members of the board who haven't even thought about this again.
Right,
Right?
Right,
Like,
they
but,
weren't on the committee, so it was,
Nope.
we
Yeah.
saw a presentation,
Saw it in
and it
August
stayed in
and-
August.
yeah, or they see the slide come up and they're like, oh,
Oh, yeah, this has to do with
Then
something we care about.
it's not actually
Right.
about like, okay, what,
Yeah,
Yeah, and our champion, Kathy, like the one who comes every time. somebody
yes,
brings it. I
reminders.
love that this slide is there.
I know,
Yeah.
So somebody has to.
we have to step up.
Yeah.
Step up our
Okay.
game.
So we're.
We're good. We're
Yep.
adjourned as a committee.
Sounds like Blake's the new chair of the committee.
Perfect.
Uh-huh.
Perfect.
I mean,
More
more
step
stuff
up as a vice chair overall,
know,
so
yeah,
like I
it's
think the
true.
default is.
So if we say anything I don't like, I'll just, oh, maybe I'll borrow Chris's gavel.
Yeah.